What's up, Mob Crew? I'm Chris, and today's missing person case is Don. Also, today's person of interest is Olivia. Today's missing person case is Courtney.
What's up, everybody? Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I am Chris with Monsters Under Our Bed. We cover murder, mystery to the paranormal. And today we're going to be going over the Murdaugh trial. And I've got a special guest with me today. I will introduce him in just a minute. Hope everyone's having a wonderful Monday. Before we get started, we always like to give back by featuring the missing. So let me get this all set up here. So today's missing, let me get this over here so you guys can see it. We've got Alexis Ware, which I think I've featured her before. She went missing, it's been almost a year ago, on January 30th of last year. She went missing somewhere in Anderson, South Carolina. She's just 29 years old when she went missing, black hair, brown eyes. Does look like she had dyed red hair, but naturally black hair. She is driving a Honda Accord, license plate 6635NS. If you have any information, please call 864-260-4405. And we've got one more. And this is just recently. This is in our hometown, so any people in Utah, or actually Utah, Nevada, or Arizona, because apparently that's where they've got the search areas. But he was last seen on a Thursday, January 5th, earlier this year. Looks like he was last seen at a Red Rock Resort in Las Vegas. His last cell phone ping was on Route 15, North Glendale in Nevada at approximately 11:08 a.m. This is a missing veteran, Matt Kemper. You can find more information at hashtag find Matt Kemper. He is 5'6", 130 pounds, 46 years old. Does look like there's a reward. I'm not sure what the reward is, but if you have any information, please call. There's quite a few numbers down there. But I guess Las Vegas Metro 702-828-3111 or 911 works as well. Okay. So before we get started, go ahead and introduce our co-host for today. What's up, Steve? How you doing, buddy?
It's an honor to be here. How you doing today, sir?
Good. As always, it's an honor to have you on. For those that might be unfamiliar to you, you want to give a little bit of background about yourself?
Sure. I'm a retired investigator, 20 years service. And during those 20 years, had all different types of training, firearms, SWAT. Became a state certified crime scene technician, which assisted my investigations. And I was the CSI guy for my department and led our team into all different types of investigations and involving a lot of death investigations.
That's amazing. So I got a poll going right now. Oh, let me close this real quick. So I put in the poll, do you think Alex Murdaugh is guilty of the charges? So far, out of 100 votes, we got a whopping 80% saying yes, 3% no, and we've got 17% saying not sure. So most of us, or I say most of you guys think he is guilty. I'm 60-40, 60 on the guilt side, but I could see both scenarios just because if you know the history of the Murdaugh family, it's not good. And it started, you could say it started back in 2015, but it could have even been earlier than that. But there's just a lot of stuff. If we just quickly recap, just for anybody that doesn't know this family, let me pull up their, let's see where to start. So we'll just quickly recap everything. So we've got the family members here. We've got Alex Murdaugh, the father. We've got his wife, Maggie. He has two sons, Buster and Paul. And then I believe his brother, Randy. And then we have John. And then his father, who is Murdaugh III, who passed away actually just approximately 2 to 3 days after the murders of Maggie and Paul. But if we went back to 2015, there was a death, Stephen Smith. It was apparently labeled as a hit and run, but then they started hearing some talk on the streets that Buster and or Paul could have been involved, and it wasn't just a hit and run. This was somebody that was beaten to death and then left on the side of the road to make it look like a hit and run. Then we kind of fast forward, and then we have the death of Gloria Satterfield. She was kind of the housekeeper for the Murdaughs, and she apparently fell down the steps and passed away, unfortunately. And then Alex Murdaugh told the surviving family, hey, why don't you sue me and I'll get somebody to represent for your side. And then what ended up happening is after that lawsuit went through and whatever, he actually just took that money for himself. So, I mean, absolutely terrible for him to do that. And then during this time, I think he was starting to, because Alex he comes from a family of lawyers and stuff. And then we moved to 2019, and we have the sad tragedy of Mallory Beach. We have three couples out boating. They go to a bar. Paul, the son of Alex, he is heavily drinking, and he's the one driving the boat. After they come from the bar, they start driving the boat back, and they come across this Archer's Creek Bridge. He speeds up. It's obviously at nighttime, so they can't really see the bridge and the pillars. He slams into a pillar, and they all get pretty much flung off the boat. And unfortunately, Mallory Beach, she wouldn't be found until I think days or weeks later. And so Paul got off with just a slap on the wrist compared to what he should have probably got. And as you can see, there's this face may look familiar, and this one as well. We've got the same attorneys that represented Paul, who is now representing Alex now, and that is Dick Harpootlian and his co-counsel. And so it looks like Paul got charged with 1 count of boating under the influence, resulting in death, 2 counts of boating under the influence causing bodily injury, but it should have been a lot more than that. But so a lot of people are unhappy with, because obviously their family, the Murdaugh family, has connections, and so a lot of people weren't happy with the results on that. Then they would close and reopen this case multiple times, the Stephen Smith case, and I think it is currently opened, and they're investigating that. And now we move to June 7th of 2021, and that's why he is at trial now. Sometime around, I think around 8:45, 9 o'clock that night, Paul was shot twice with a shotgun, and Maggie was shot approximately 5 times with a .300 Blackout AR style rifle. And So yeah, so now we're caught up on that. And then, before we go to trial, Alex Murdaugh would end up trying to do a kind of hired a hitman to get shot, and so that way he could give the life insurance to his son Buster. That was a failed self-inflicted plot. And so then we move on to now the trial, which just started last week. And so now we're caught up. And that's just like this short, skim, brief crash course of this crazy roller coaster ride of the family. Okay, so now let me get caught up to my timeline here. Okay, so here we are, caught up with the timeline. So Alex Murdaugh, that day on June 7th, according to him, he says that after, I don't know if they ate before or after, but they were riding around for a bit. And then he went to the house and took a nap sometime around 8 p.m. And ironically, his phone would show, or coincidentally, I should say, his phone would show no activity. And I'm not sure that's what it's labeled as. So I don't know if he turned his phone off or if it just was not moving at that time. But apparently between 8:02 and 9:06, his phone would, as they say, show no activity. And at that time, Paul and Maggie were supposedly by the kennels. So we'll come back to this real quick. At 8:44, Paul records, he records two videos, but the last video he records is at 8:44, almost basically 8:45. He records this video for a friend. He thinks there's something wrong with the dog's tail. He's at the kennels. And now this time, obviously, Alex was supposed to be at the house, but apparently, and we may hear this in trial at some point, is not only can you hear Maggie's voice, but from according to the prosecution, you can hear Alex's voice in the background as well. And then at 8:49, Paul's phone would lock up forever. So they think, according to the prosecution, that means that the attack happened between 8:45 and 8:48, so a 3-minute window approximately. So first couple questions for you, I've got tons of them. So the distance from the house to the kennels is approximately 363 yards from the crime scene, about 3.5 football fields away. You have 2 gunshot wounds to Paul and approximately 6 shots, because there is 6 shells. Even though Maggie was hit with approximately, they say 5, there were 6 shots. So 8 shots altogether, 2 shotgun, 6 AR. Would you be able to hear that from 3.5 football fields away?
Oh, yeah. Let me first start off saying that in law enforcement investigators, when you arrive on such a scene, you're looking at this, it's easy to pass judgment on someone if you know of their reputation. So we have to be extremely careful that, of course, this individual has a lot of issues in his practice and the things that have happened around his family. But from a law enforcement perspective, regardless, we must never convict someone due to their reputation or what their other crimes they may be have committed, because there's a lot of people out there who's committed a lot of crimes that don't commit homicides. But with that being said, when you do start finding discrepancies, such as the individual saying that he's asleep, yet you can hear him during that same time frame that he's supposed to be 363 yards away taking a nap, and we find out that that is a misleading statement, then of course we start what does that evidence tell us, and which direction do we go with that? So we understand why he's a suspect just from the video and the inactivity of his phone, because what individual nowadays walks or goes anywhere? How could his phone be inactive at 8, whatever that time was, when he's in a video 363 yards away from his nap? So of course we've got contradictions, and that's what brings us here. But I'm still in the firearm industry, and 363 yards away for either a shotgun or a rifle or pistol from inside a house. And actually, I will do some testing on this. I can barely hear a gunshot from inside my house to an area where we do some shooting. And I designed it that way so it doesn't disrupt the family whenever
sure.
they're at home. And
Sure.
so while you may think that if you're inside a well-insulated house in a certain room that you would hear loud gunshots, that's not always the case. And you can ask Mrs. Steve. Of course, you'll hear that low. It's almost down to the level of a door shutting is all I hear at about this exact range, actually.
3.5
Probably within
football
30
fields
yards of
away.
this. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
it's almost like you just shut a door a little bit hard, but it's not what you would think if you're standing at 50 yards or 100 yards.
Sure. Sure.
So, and if you're used to gunfire, you have to take it that you would possibly sleep through it. But if you take the other evidence that says that he's in the background talking, which they may argue it's just another male that's there, we don't know. But it is possible that if he is telling the truth, that he may have not have heard those gunshots.
Yeah. And like I said, I'm 60-40. I'm a little bit on the guilty side, just because, just with how much craziness with the family. But either one would not surprise me. And I mean, I'm excited for this trial because I think they've got great lawyers on both sides, and they got
And
a
it
great
could be very
defense.
revealing, who is the male there that is in the background? Is it him, or is it someone, just because he's not the one on the trigger, we just don't know.
Yeah.
Because he hired another trigger man for another failed situation.
Yeah. Oh yeah, producer. Yeah, I mean, it's allegedly, guilty, innocent till proven. Exactly. And like I said, that's why I say I'm 60-40. Both scenarios wouldn't surprise me at all. Just with the family history. But there is a few things that, like I said, there's the crying. It seemed, I don't know, it's a mix because him crying seems genuine, but the fact that there's no tears is really weird. I mean, I don't, I'm not an expert, but that just seems a little weird.
I've seen it across the board. I've seen some people so emotional, and then I've seen some that just accept the fact and they move on. They have a purpose in life, and they're going to find out who committed this crime against their family. And they take that grief and turn it into anger and focus and totally commit to finding that individual. One of the co-cases that I work, individual exactly has that mannerism.
Yeah, I think according to the Mob Crew family, we're 80-20. Well, not sure yet. So yeah, that's funny. Okay. So, cause this was an interesting conversation. And then after we get past this, we're going to break down the crime scene. Cause I broke down where all the bullets were at, according to their diagram. I blew it up just in case you're confused on the location. Cause when I was looking at it the other day, and I'll explain that here in a minute. So we'll get past this part, and then we're going to start breaking down the crime scene.
Sure.
And let you decipher what you think kind of scenarios could happen. So I'm excited for that. But
Absolutely.
Quick question. This was interesting because we were talking about this before the show. Could the killer have a silencer on the AR and or shotgun? What does it take to get a silencer or a can to suppress the sound?
Well, if you go through the legal path of getting the permits and paying the taxes and then having the local law enforcement to sign off on the sheet, it's expensive. And of course, this individual has the money that he could do that if he is the one that would have some type of suppressor or silencer, or some people call them cans. And if he was using that, especially on the blackout, shotguns are a little bit more difficult to do that with, although it's possible. But the blackout itself, absolutely, they're already out there manufactured. And
so it's more than just getting a gun permit. You've got to go through more steps to get a silencer.
Oh yes. It's not. Yeah, it's a process of with the ATF of filing paperwork, and then here in Georgia. Now I don't know about South Carolina. I've learned a lot about South Carolina and SLED today. That absolutely I'm not real happy with. But anyway, the there's a process of how you have to go through that. Make sure here the local sheriff has to sign off on them before you can get a suppressor or a silencer.
That's interesting. Yeah. So I thought it'd just be all kind of, if you got a thing for the firearm, maybe just the same thing, getting a permit, but it sounds like
Well, it's a process, but it's a very intense.
Yeah, that's interesting. It really is. So here's kind of an overview look of the house and the entrance. And I've noticed some of you guys mentioned the phone. Yes, I've got the phone and everything, Maggie's phone, because that is an interesting spot for the phone to be. Really weird. So they have two entrances. Here's kind of the first entrance that takes you to the home here. Now, apparently they say they use this entrance a lot because they have the mailbox somewhere. I'm not sure. Somewhere along this line here is where their mailbox is at. And the road, it doesn't look like it, but the road continues. It's just kind of an odd angle. I guess I should have put that to kind of. But so anyway, so apparently the mailbox is on this side. So this driveway gets used quite often, almost, I think, from what they're saying in the trial, is just as much as the, I guess, main driveway here. So I just kind of want to point that out. So yeah, Maggie's cell phone, before we get to the crime scene, her cell phone was found a quarter mile on Mosella Road on the grass, just off the side of the road, approximately right here, because they were describing if you were to come back, you take a right, and then it would be on the left side. So according to the witness, I forget the name, they said that this is where the cell phone was found. So what do you make of that? It's kind of weird location, huh?
Well, yes. Someone took the phone for a reason.
Yeah.
And what was that reason? And which direction did he travel to get to his mother's house? Do you know?
Oh, I don't. I don't know the exact way he takes to travel. That's a great question, though. I would assume coming out this way, but I don't know. I have to look, because this is actually, we're almost looking south. We're actually almost flipped upside down, if that makes sense. North is down almost. So we're kind of flipped upside down. So I'm not sure which way. I'd have to look at it. That's a great question. If we get time, we'll have to look that up.
Okay. Yeah. Because like I said, if it's along his path,
great question,
or
actually.
if he's staging, I mean, there's so much we don't know about this currently until all the information comes out. I've been on the road the last couple of days. I just got back in, so far more about this than I. But I'm looking forward to hearing the details.
Okay. All right. So, and thanks to Karma for kind of pointing out where the kennels were at, because I had it kind of mixed up yesterday. And because when I first looked at this diagram, because I've seen diagrams like this, and usually what I was under the impression is that they took this part here, and this is actually from inside this. If that makes sense. This was like a scaled, and then you would have had like the kennels here, and then this would have been kind of like the awning part of it. So I thought this brown thing was the kennels, and then they kind of expanded out this. And so I thought, okay, here's, Paul's body's in here, and then Maggie's body's found here. But that's not the case. This is the kennels, and this is part of the red overhang. And as you can see, there's the doghouse, and I've got actually ground photos of where that doghouse and everything. And then I break down all these little evidence numbers and what they pertain to. So let's move forward here one. So here's a kind of a better, cleaner picture of the kennels that I found. So this is where Paul would be found. And I've got a video for you guys as well, which I got to pull up here in a bit. But let's look at the scene. So Paul would have been found, obviously, just inside here. And then Maggie would have been found just kind of beyond the red overhang. So there's the picture. This is a great picture. So these are the kennels, as you can see here. It doesn't look like this is kind of, I'm assuming it's kind of an older photo. I'm assuming because unless there's more, I think they probably built more onto these things, or they took some stuff down. I don't know. But here's the doghouse right here. So, and then Maggie's body would have been found just to the right of that here. Okay, so now that we kind of got everything kind of mapped out, because that's the one thing I wanted to make sure is everybody understood where the bodies were at and what we were looking at, because it was a little bit confusing looking at the diagram here. So I hope everybody kind of understands that. And now we'll start breaking down the evidence here. Okay. So what we got, so I kind of blew everything up. So we'll go to my diagram here. So we'll start with Paul here. And these are supposed to be footsteps, because that's one thing that they mentioned, that there's 4 footsteps. They believe one of them might have been from the investigator. And you think at least 1 or 2, which may have been these 2 here, could have been Paul when he first got shot the first time?
Well, from looking at, and I know we can't bring that on you on the YouTube
Yeah,
without some type of strike or some kind of issue with it. But looking at the blood pattern and the blood spatter and the droplets, they were dropped from an injury that was substantial. You had a lot of large blood droplets that was coming down, and they were falling and creating almost perfectly round circular drop whenever they struck the floor. And then they had a crowning effect, which is very common in blood drops. And that shows that those drops were from a 90-degree angle. So they fell straight down. So where those blood drops were, that they weren't cast off, they didn't have any angle to them, and they weren't elongated. So they're perfectly 90-degree drop off from some type of injury. And there was also the shotgun wadding there in this little grouping of droplets.
Yeah,
which would be common. Which would be common for the fact that the wadding of the shotgun that encapsulates the lead pellets or the steel pellets within a shotgun, that when it travels and it comes out down the barrel, it's not traveling. It starts slowing down, and the spread of the shot within the shot shell is coming out, and the plastic doesn't have the mass, and so it starts slowing down, and it won't. Generally, the waddings sometimes will cause a very minor injury, but a lot of times just heavy clothing or a jacket or a heavy shirt will stop that wadding. And that appears to be the case here, because it appears to land within that same blood pattern. And then you see where some of the those droplets or that pool of blood has been stepped in, or there's some type of pattern in it.
And which is
go ahead.
Right. Oh yeah, and I was going to say even these footprints kind of show that where the blood was at. So it's kind of.
And so once there's a transfer to the bottom of his shoe, say he has an injury, he's leaning over, or it's running down his arm and dripping off and creating this blood pattern on the floor, and he just happened to step and turn around and start, because a lot of times with certain injuries, you may be having that you're not going to survive it, but a lot of times you can survive for several minutes or seconds. It just depends, and it appears that's going to be the case here, because he went halfway across that room, and I think that room is like 10 foot by 10 foot or something. The scale, the crime scene technician that did this not to scale was absolutely. I have so many issues with it, because they got a 10-foot individual over here standing inside a 10-foot room, and they didn't do it to scale, which is, there's no reason with what jurors should expect from what they see on TV with CSI, with the technologies we have today,
right?
That we didn't take those steps, and I hate that they didn't, because that will not leave a good impression on the jurors.
Right. Yeah. So the not to scale is not something that you would normally have created. So what you were kind of explaining, and I wish I would have taken another little body right here. So it looks like he was kind of standing more in this room, pretty much where number 1 is at, as where he got shot with the first shot, which was kind of in the upper chest.
That the injury was, and I don't see any, because after the injury occurs, then the blood has to start flowing, and so he could be a foot or two either way, but he stopped for some amount of time in that specific spot, and there would create a blood pool below his injury or wherever extremity the blood was flowing off of. It could have been, if he's holding his chest, or if he's holding, because I don't know, I haven't seen the reports, and I don't know where he suffered that first gunshot, what part of his body. But whatever extremity or chest or leaning, that blood will run to a point, and just like on a house or a gutter or any type of, once it gets to a certain point, low point, gravity takes over and it starts dripping. And that's what that created that blood pattern there.
Interesting. Okay, so like I said, we're going to break down all these little markers and what they are for those that may not know, or because they're real tiny. I'm going to go ahead and play this video real quick. It's a short little video. Now, this is just my interpretation, and I could only use one person, so I wish I could recreate a two-person scenario. So, like I said, this is not just to, point directly at Murdaugh or anything, but I just wanted to kind of give an idea of where I think the persons were standing when the shootings happened. And this, let's see, where do we got it? Okay, Murdaugh trial. And where's my video at? My video. Or did I already put it? Okay, here it is. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and play this. This is no Steven Spielberg thing. So here we're looking at, as you can see, I've got all this, and we'll break all this down here, but this is what this possible interpretation of what may have happened. So Paul would have been in the kennel. One person approaches. We have one shot, two shots, leaving two shells near his body. Maggie may have been approaching to see what's going on. There's kind of a scene from inside the kennel there. I couldn't really show up close because it's not very graphic, but it does have a few blood droplets. Then there's going to be 3 shots. Now, we don't know which in order they went, but I'm just assuming, and I'll curious to see, but there'll be 3 shots pretty much there. Then she could have dropped and fell face forward. Then there would be another 3 shots fired, approximately. She would be hit 5 shots, at least 1 in her head, back of her head. And so that's just kind of a possible interpretation of the scene. Like I said, it could have been 2 people. Fortunately, I'm still learning this Filmora, and best reenactment ever. I said, I'm still learning this program, and I'll eventually be able to work with more. So that's just kind of an idea, but let's go back to the crime scene here. Let's see. Okay, what video did we just look at? They both pull up. Okay, let me get rid of this one. Add to stream. Okay, so now we move over to Maggie here. And what we're looking at is we have 2, 3, and 4, which are spent AR rounds, the 3 AR rounds. And they're pretty much clumped up right here, just kind of close to the corner of the red roof building. 13 is a bullet that is spent, that was shot into the ground. So I don't know if that number 2's spent shell is attributed to number 13's bullet. And then 2 rounds were fired. And then another grouping of bullets would be found right beside her body. Now, when you fire a weapon, it ejects out to the right and back a little bit, correct?
The majority, most all AR platforms are right side ejection port. You have the odd ball out there occasionally, but almost all of them do eject to the right.
So now you've seen my interpretation. Let's go a little bit before you interpret everything, because I still got a few other things to add on to it. So then we find out from the trial that there is this marker, which is, I think, 12, marker 12. This, and from the testimony of one of the investigators, apparently this, I'm assuming, because they said they took some biological matter from an ATV. So I'm assuming the ATV may have been sitting there, if that's because that's what it says. It's biological matter. Now we don't know if it's human, but they just say it's suspicious biological matter. That's what they worded as, and they took it from the ATV. So I'm gonna go on a limb and say maybe the ATV is around this area right here. I could be wrong, but that's where they took it from, and that's where they have the marker at. Then we have the gravel strike, which we talked about. And we have the unknown tracks, which are at this part of the red roof building here. So kind of looking at the grouping of the bullets, how would you interpret it?
Well, if the gun, the number 13 is probably the most surprising, but once again, we don't have it to scale, and we don't know how accurate this is. And so that's so aggravating. But if the gun is ejecting to the right, the shooter would have been further higher up, because that's where the shell casings are. So about where the circle for where you say the ATV is.
Happy birthday, Jamie. Sorry, I just put that in there. She had to leave. My apologies.
Oh, no.
Okay.
So if your marker for your ATV, that more than likely is about where the shooter was. But for that bullet strike in the gravel, we don't know if it's a 90-degree discharge straight into the ground, or
Sure.
is it one that was fired at an angle that struck the ground and created some type of crater and cavity. Law enforcement will know. They'll go in there, they'll look at, they'll see whatever the characteristics of that strike is. Is it one that's shot at an angle, or is it 90 degrees? If we say that all the shell casings, the spent casings, are in this line, then he would have had to be up there at some point near where the ATV is. And the bullets would, if he's shooting at Maggie at that point, and the bullets would have been ejecting to the right, creating that string of casings.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. What order do you think happened just by looking at this diagram? Or does it point one way or the other, do you think? Or is it 50-50?
Well, there's a lot of to be discussed here. Do we have one shooter or two shooters? Do we have a shooter for each? Or was it some type of staging to create that? That question's up in the air currently.
Yeah.
For me, because I have no evidence. Extremely odd for an individual to do such a thing. I don't know what types of locks are on those dog kennels. I don't know if it's something that you could lock from the outside with a master lock or something that has a hasp, and you could have locked him in, Paul in temporarily while you committed a homicide on Maggie, and then went back and shot him. Or did you shoot him and then she was coming, and or do you have two offenders? There's so many different variables that
Sure.
I'm just so unaware of.
Sure.
And then where the shell casings are for the other would mean that if Maggie is face down, he would have been standing to the left-hand side of her. If she's face down in that direction, and they would be able to do a pattern analysis of the ejection of a 300 blackout and tell you pretty close to exactly where he was standing.
Yeah.
But you have stippling. From my understanding, there was from the muzzle blast, there was stippling on the victims, which typically is for that stippling to occur. It can go all the way out to 3 or 4 feet, but we don't know the pattern of the stippling. And you can tell a lot from the stippling, which is the unspent, unburned powders and the that come out of the muzzle and will strike a victim on anything that is extremely close, 3 feet and in. And the size of that pattern would tell you how far that muzzle was from the victim.
Interesting. Tom Ann says, I think he is guilty, but he's a lot smarter than people think. He plays dumb a lot. Oh, yeah. That's for sure. They won't be able to prove beyond a reasonable doubt. That is how I think this will roll down. They've got an uphill battle right now. But yeah, it's definitely, excuse me. Yeah, the prosecution's got definitely an uphill battle right now.
And they always have to, for the fact
Yeah,
that
that's usually how.
And so you've got the defense that's going to be always at the start of a trial, that will have that it's a uphill battle for the prosecution, and
Sure.
it should be.
Yeah,
And
yeah, which is true.
if they don't overcome this, and so far they've done a poor job to overcome that burden.
Right. Okay. Moving on. Okay. So this is before I built that video, because I was just wondering, with the bullets kind of grouped up here, if that suggested that he shot maybe. Now, if you get shot with the AR, does that automatically mean you're going to fall back, or can you withstand that depending on where you're shot at? I mean,
all the energy that you see in TV about
then you get blown back,
picking you up, throwing you back. No, whatever recoil the individual sees, the shotgun has the heaviest recoil. The 300 blackout is something that is not that bad. It's very comfortable to shoot.
But I mean, if a person gets shot by an AR, will that make them get knocked back? Or
no, there's not enough energy to knock you back. It just whatever your center of gravity is, your knees. If your knees buckle forward, you're going to fall face first. You can fall all different kind of ways. If you're backing away and your momentum is getting away, and you get shot and you trip, you can fall backwards. And once again, it's what we just don't know those variables. But you can fall any manner of ways. It just depends if you're backing away from the offender, or if you're coming towards the offender, or you're just standing there and you get shot out of nowhere. And what type of injury is it? Is it one that absolutely shuts down your nervous system? And if so, it's a lot like boxers. When they get hit, you'll see them and they'll fall face first. That, they're hit with all the energy in the world with that punch. And a lot of them still fall flat of the face.
Forward. Yeah, because it looks like, obviously Paul and Maggie were both lying face first. And let me just go back one more time. If these first few rounds that were fired first, while she's standing up they're facing each other, I was just wondering, would that make sense for her to still fall forward, and then whoever, came around and then finished her off? And the reason why I think this is the order, at least for Maggie, with the bullets, because apparently there is a mark on her leg. Now, of course, they weren't able to really definitively say what it is, but they thought, well, actually, it's kind of weird. The defense is actually kind of arguing that it looked like there was a partial footprint on her leg. So that clearly could kind of make sense. You shoot a couple times, she falls face forward, and then you're walking over to her, and then, a few more bullets, but you kind of step on her in the process. But that's just, opinion and suggestion, but not.
Well, now there's a lot of things to be said. A lot of times hunters or offenders or people, they'll shake a animal or a victim to see if there's any movement or anything. They'll step.
Oh.
And
right. Yeah, kind of kick them, or yeah. Oh, so, yeah. Which is you see a lot in the movies, actually. I mean, that is something that movies, I guess, may interesting.
See if you get a reaction or something. Not saying that's the case here, but it does occur.
That would make sense. I mean, really, that would make sense. Okay. So let's move on to a little bit of kind of just, Paul's, Alex, some weird things that don't really add up. And it's, so we have Paul laying face first on the floor now, and he's already been shot twice. Once in this upper chest, and of course headshot, which was catastrophic. You kind of talked about it, like as do you want to explain that with what it's like to get, without going too graphic?
It's not a pleasant sight to see. First off, anytime you have such an injury to the head, because you have these firearms have muzzle energy, and it's in the thousands of foot-pounds of pressure or kinetic energy. I think most of both the 300 and the 12 gauge, both of them have like 2,000 plus foot-pounds of energy at muzzle. And so if anything's close to that muzzle when it's fired, and it goes into something like the cranial vault, and when it gets in there, of course, everything is instantly pressurized, and the injury is absolutely catastrophic. The cavitation, the bone structure, the skin, everything that's meant to protect the brain fails, and it absolutely will create things that you wish you hadn't seen.
Sure.
But and from the description that the blood pattern expert, who's out of Oklahoma City, that I think they're trying to get disqualified or trying to get suppressed, the defense is, explained that his brain was detached, and for that to occur, then of course that muzzle energy was transferred into the body, the terminal ballistics, and it caused such a severe injury.
Yeah.
And it's, I mean, like I said, it's not easy to talk about and try to keep from.
Yeah. Well, the reason why I ask, and because you know, obviously you have the experience, and unfortunately you've told me you've had to see some of these kinds of scenes. So this moves on to my thing with apparently Alex, when he supposedly comes across the bodies. He comes across his son, and his son is obviously laying face first. Pretty much his head is gone, with two wounds, one from the chest, and then obviously the head. I mean, I'm assuming he's in a pool of blood, without getting too descriptive.
Yes.
But then he goes to lean and try to roll Paul over a bit, and the phone, as he would say, pops out. There's a couple of things that I have a problem with. One, if he's laying face first and that phone's kind of laying, let's say he had the phone out, it's most likely going to drop by his body and probably either crack or get covered in blood. So one, how's the phone not covered in blood? And then two, more importantly, how is Alex not covered in blood if not only is he checking, he's kind of rolling Paul and this phone pops out, but then he's also checking the pulse, I don't know, on his wrist, I guess, because I'm neck or wrist, either one. Do you think it's unlikely he would be able to get, it'd be really hard not to get blood on him?
Well, I mean, why would you even look at the phone in the first place?
That's really weird. That is one thing that doesn't make sense.
You're looking at, you're checking for survival. You're trying to figure out how to save a family member. You're not checking on phones.
That is.
And so when things don't make sense, they don't make sense. And I have a large issue with that. But we'll have to, he said not only with Paul, but pretty much the same with Maggie, that he went and checked. And when these injuries occur, especially with the shotgun, and you have that almost vaporized cavitation of the head injury, that miss goes in every direction, 360 degrees. And you'll have biological material traveling as far as it will, depends on the direction from the muzzle blast, and which law enforcement knows, and we just don't know all of that yet. I believe that we will know it, but they won't ever show it. We won't see it on during the court trial. We'll probably see some of this later, just like they have with other cases, that after the trial's over, then some of that stuff comes out, and which, I don't recommend anybody looking at that stuff. It serves no purpose.
Yeah. Okay, before we get to the next one, just get this Wisteria. I hope I said that. Wisteria Whisper. Ooh, I like that name. I love your show. You and your guests are most respectful and professional speaking. Keep up the good work. Thank you so much, Whisper. That's so awesome. We try to be very respectful, and I really appreciate that. That's so cool.
It's very nice of you.
Yeah, we try to put a lot of work in. So before we get a little bit further, we are going to be doing, you are going to be doing some tests. We're not going to say exactly what. We'll just kind of leave it with a cliffhanger. But you're going to be doing something, and it's going to be super exciting. We'll probably aim for Thursday. I would say probably Friday or Saturday, but I'm really excited. I can't say any more than that, but Steve is going to be doing something interesting, and I think it's going to be amazing. So excited.
It's going to answer some questions.
Yeah.
It absolutely is going to answer some questions.
Yeah.
And then we'll see.
Yep.
But enough of we've teased that. I like it. But I enjoy doing these controls, and law enforcement does these controls because they have to have those answers. And will we see this in this trial? Very possible. More by the defense than the prosecution, but it's very possible we may see something similar to some of the tests that we're going to be doing this week. Yeah.
Okay. So like I said, we're not going to focus hardly on Alex, but just there's still some oddities with, Alex that needs to be, kind of brought up. And we only have Steve on, once or twice a week. So one detective claims that he seemed like Alex had a fresh pair of clothes on, and it makes me wonder, did she smell like the fresh fabric softener scent on him? There's kind of interesting wording on saying fresh pair of clothes, not just like clean clothes, but fresh pair. And keep in mind, it's I had the degrees, because if we see the video, they're sweating. I mean, they are the humidity is really high. I think it's the temperature is 84 degrees with a humidity of if I have the humidity, it's up there. It was bad. Yeah, I mean, you could see him in the car, like just sweating off. And so it does kind of, I don't know where this picture came from. It's got like some weird smoky thing on it. Really weird picture. I hope we'll probably get, I'm sure we'll get this body cam footage at some point, but I mean, we do get to see him in the car not much later, but he does seem to be pretty clean. Okay, so moving on. So I thought this was interesting, is Alex says, and he does this on the 911 call. Alex says on the 911 call that he's going to the house, obviously he calls and says, yeah, I found my wife and son shot, and gives the address. And then while they're still on the line, he says, hey, I'm going to go grab my shotgun, because I don't know if someone's still here. And now, was this premeditated? Was this a premeditated action for an alibi to explain the gunshot residue? And I'll ask you about gunshot residue in a second. But apparently, at some point later on after the murders, I don't think that night, but he apparently will bring a tarp over, or a raincoat, one or the two, tarp or raincoat, to his mother's home. Now, keep in mind, his mother has Alzheimer's, and she's not going to be able to be a witness. And apparently they retrieved this tarp. They don't know what was in it, but they know that there was gunshot residue in this tarp or raincoat. There was also a seatbelt that was introduced on Friday, and that has gunshot residue. So which that means that came from his hands. So the question is how long, explain gunshot residue, and like, let's say in his case, if he used the shotgun like 2 days ago before the murders happened, would there still be gunshot residue on that shotgun that he grabbed?
Yes, I mean, guns do what they do. They fire, and the remnants of the action of the powder burning, the makeup of the composition of all the chemicals that make the gunpowder. That's what the gunshot residue kit collects. And you send it to the lab, and they say, yes, it's this, this, and this. And actually, I think she took that seatbelt assembly not that night, but weeks later, I believe, went back and took it. It wasn't, or it was, there was a time of difference that when they took that assembly. And so you have a hunter in his own truck and that gunshot residue on it. The gunshot residue doesn't have a DNA profile that runs with it. So whose gunshot residue is it? Is it one of his brothers? Is it Maggie's? Is it one of his sons? Is it his? And from what time frame? This is going to be something that's going to be a nothing burger. Other than you're trying to show that at some point in his driving that truck, he handled a gun. And he could be absolutely guilty of it, but you cannot put it in there to that timeline. And I hate to be the negative on that, but gunshot residue is one of those things that it's very, very hard to do anything with.
Yeah. Thank you so much, WL22. You two are the A team. Thank you. I like I said, I can't wait for those who are new to the channel. We've got some exciting things coming in a couple months. We're going to be going out and working on cold cases. So not just covering true crime, but actually going out and helping. And you guys will get to come along with us. Just sub to True Crime Web, great mind. Thank you so much for subbing to Steve's channel. I've got it at the top of the link. My co-host for today. Amazing insight. Thank you so much. Let me get this one more, and then we'll continue on. If it'll let me do it, maybe not. That's why I like my other. You two make a great team. I would like to make this donation for your trip to Montello this spring if I can. Thank you so much for the $50. That will help so much supporting this channel. Like I said, I would not be here without you guys, just even the ones just hitting that like button and watching, subscribing. It's amazing. And like I said, we're going to show our full potential here in a couple months, and it wouldn't be able to do it without you guys. So thank you so much. So let me get caught up on. Oh, go ahead, Steve.
I was just going to say on the gunshot residue, I haven't shot a gun in at least 2 days, but I've handled a gun. I handle guns every day. So if you tested me right now for gunshot residue, it's part of my culture and my environment, in my orbit every day. So there's nothing that they could ever do with that. Can he claim that? Yes, he's on his hunting property. So, you can pick up a shot shell off the ground and you have gunshot residue from a shot shell. And that's the bad part about it.
Yeah. So here's something that I did want to touch on before I don't forget. So, yes, you're reading this number right. More than 250 people named on witness lists for the Murdaugh murder trial. Now, according to them, they say 33 for the defense only list, but it says state witnesses or witnesses on both lists, 222. That is outrageous. That is 255, basically.
That's not a good sign.
Yeah,
really
so you take that as
many witnesses. Yeah, it's not a good sign. In a homicide trial, that you have what the world anticipate and wants. They want that link of that DNA profile, that gun analysis, the weapons, and they may get that from the phone and that video. That's strong. If that's his voice and they're able to put him there when he says sleeping, that's strong. And if they can find and the silence of the unspent rounds found at another location on the property that links to the casings and of the ownership of that Blackout 300 or that 300 Blackout. If they can match that and link it, then it's going to be huge. And they'll get him on that. But all this other stuff right now is not going so well. But like I said, it's early on. It's only like what, day 3 or day 4 of testimony, and so they have to build that. So you generally don't start out with your best evidence, but you'll end up and wind up with your best evidence, and that's what I'm looking forward to seeing.
Right. Gosh, I hate when it does that. Okay, I'm trying to. Here we go. So this is the new video they released today. I don't know. I put it in my trailer, so some of you guys may have seen this. Maybe some of you haven't. Nothing. 250 could be the whole town. No, it sounds, that's crazy. And it with how long it takes for one witness. I mean, it's like right now we just finished with witness. We had half a witness just for the defense, and then prosecution took their time on this witness for today. So yeah, it's like one to 2 witnesses tops per day. I mean, that would be a long trial. There's no way. I mean, you'd be looking at half a year. So I doubt that'll be that many, but that's still pretty crazy. So here's just a short version of the video they put out today. Nothing like super exciting. It shows I gotta turn the volume down. Now you guys can't hear it. I apologize. They don't really say nothing other than that, like, hey, there's a bullet here, there's a bullet here. There's nothing said that's like extremely wild. Now they're just finding the 300 Blackout rounds around this home. I guess they have like a shooting range across their property, which I mean, it's still their property. And I'm guessing this is they're outside that property right there. And if we pull up on Google Earth, I'll see if I can find it here. But they find a bunch of shells. Of course, these are the same kind of shells that are used.
Those are spent rounds, it appears, and just shooting off the porch or just off some area over there at some probably whatever type of weapons check they did from seeing if it would function. And those are older. They were tarnished and dark. Those aren't fresh. They've been there a while. Whenever you see them oxidized in that manner, they've been out in the weather for a while.
Yeah. Yes. So the witnesses, Karen, they finished. So half of the day was the defense finishing with the lady from Friday. And then the second half was the next guy in line, who's actually the guy that's actually wearing this body cam footage. He's the one that's actually was being on the witness stand today, which the prosecution basically took all day with him on the stand. So I'm assuming Tuesday. I didn't finish the last half hour, so I don't know if the defense got to even start or if even prosecution finished their. I'm assuming they probably did. So defense will probably start on him tomorrow, cross-examining. So anyway, I'm going to skip forward a little bit. They find 5 shells. And the other thing is just to look at all the guns they have. That's the interesting. Okay, so let me back it up. So we get to see how many guns they've got here. And this may be nothing to you, Steve. This is like, oh my gosh. So what are we looking at? It looks like, I mean, I'm not a professional. It looks like a lot of, at least shotguns, some rifles, a mix between shotguns and rifles. Let me pause it here.
I think I saw everything from a Mini 14 to shotguns. I see some bolt guns.
Here, that's a better. So a couple bolts.
No, I don't see a Mini 14. I'm sorry. Let's see. Let me count them through here. Let me blow that up and I'll tell you in just a second here.
4, 6, 10,
from
14. About
left to right, I see starting on the left-hand side, looks like a shotgun, a bolt gun, shotgun. there's something that has looks like a bipod on it. Probably that'd be I think, can't tell, but got a lever gun.
Yeah.
They got a Mini 14 there, or some looks like a Ruger Mini 14, which is 223 more likely. Shotgun.
Yep.
Appears to be it has it looks like a rifle, another shotgun.
Yep.
And no, he has a pretty good collection.
Yeah. Interesting. And then of course the weapons that there's a couple of guns that are missing. That's another thing that doesn't kind of look good on Alex's end. Here you've got the same bullets that they shoot. I mean, I guess the alibi would be that, or the defense's argument would be, hey, he just has these guns and they just happen to get killed with the weapons that we have.
Well, I don't see any of the blackouts aren't here.
Yeah,
300 blackouts are not on this that you're showing right now.
I'm assuming they probably already had those. This is taken June 8th, so this is one day after the incident. So maybe they probably took that shotgun for sure. Maybe they've already taken a few. I don't know. It looks like all the guns are there, but I don't know if he's got another wall. I'm not sure, but oh yeah, they've got guns on the pool table here. It looks like.
Okay.
Yeah, these must be the ones that they're going to probably take in. Oh yeah, it's really hard to tell. I could tell they're guns, but these must be the ones that they were showing today. He doesn't really go up to the. I don't know why that pops up. Oh, there. Oh. I hate how it pops up. I don't know if you can make that out. I could take a screenshot of it.
No, I can't see much about it.
Yeah, I'll take a screenshot and see. But clearly, these must be the guns that they're kind of interested in. Let's see. Okay, let's take a look here. See the shotgun here. Yeah.
And but I still don't see anything that looks like an AR platform.
No. This looks like half of it.
That could be, yes.
Yeah, it's just not the long barrel.
Yeah, it looks like it's that may be one of the it's more of an AR platform, that first one for sure.
Yeah.
And but the other ones behind it appears to be shotgun.
Yeah, two shotguns, I think. Yep. I see one,
then a third one way back there.
Yeah, there's 4 guns there. That's for sure.
Yeah, we got a magazine that's laying there, just at the end of right there is where your magazine is.
Oh yeah, I see it.
So that would be for one of the AR platforms.
Sure. Shotgun shell. Oh, well, actually, I don't know. That green label. That's for the AR rounds, I believe. Yeah.
There's so many of them, different kinds.
Yeah. So kind of wild. So let's see. Did we go over everything that I wanted to? Yeah, I wish, because YouTube doesn't like it. You made a really good argument. I'll see what I could do if I can try to kind of like blur some things out. Because Steve, there's, a little bit of evidence photos. They're not very graphic. There's just a little bit of blood spots that they hadn't cleaned up yet, I guess, from where Paul was at. And Steve had pointed out something very interesting. But right now, my last video, I guess I kind of showed it, and YouTube wasn't too happy, even though it's not very graphic. It's just a few blood spots. So I'm going to have to try to figure out a way to kind of clean it up a little bit.
When I was discussing that with you, it's not graphic at all to me. I've seen, but, and so to the population as a whole, it might have some shock value.
Yeah. Well, let's see how the votes are coming in. So we have 351 votes, still 75%, a little above 75% say yes. It's going a little bit higher on the not sure, about 20%, which I don't blame people. I'm As I said, either way would not surprise me at all. I'm a little more on the guilty side just because of the history. And then just with Alex Murdaugh, makes me wonder, we were talking about this. Could he have hired a hitman? Like maybe he didn't do it, but did he hire the hitman that did it? And maybe he helped clean it up. So maybe he didn't actually kill him, but he hired the person or persons that did. So there's always that. I mean, there's so many scenarios for sure. Anything you want to touch on, Steve, that I might have forgot?
Oh, no. I mean, like I said, we're in the early stages of the evidence being brought. They're just,
Sure. Sure.
I'm looking forward to it and see where it goes.
So let's do a quick recap for those that might have missed the first part. Just a real just overview of the timeline. So according to Alex, is his story, because I was kind of confused in the beginning, like so many, is according to his story, is they go riding around and then he goes home. I think maybe they ate before or after or something like that. But anyway, they're out riding and they're out by the kennels, Paul and Maggie. Alex says he goes to the home to rest, and he apparently takes a nap somewhere around 8 p.m. Excuse me. Now, according to his phone, it has no activity between 8:09 and 9:02. Actually, 9:06. This is my old one. No, I think this is right. I don't know. I could have it backward. I think it's 8:02 to 9:06. I think I might have this wrong. I don't know. I'll have to double check. But anyway, it's an hour. So his phone's inactive for pretty much an hour, and we don't know if that just means it's just sitting at the home and there's no movement, or if it's shut off. Now, Paul records 2 Snapchat videos. The second one's the more relevant one because this is just before the attack happens, because he's recording a video for his friend, the dog. He's telling a friend that, hey, there's something wrong with this dog's tail. Now, apparently you can hear Maggie's voice in the background, and also, according to the prosecution, you can hear Alex's voice, which, if that's the case, then that doesn't look good because he's supposed to be at the house. At 8:45 to 8:48 would be when, according to the prosecution, is when the murders most likely happened, a 3-minute window, which wouldn't be long because they're not far away. And Paul's phone would shut off or lock forever at 8:49. Now, there's 2 entrances to the home. What's interesting with Maggie's cell phone is it's found a quarter mile from the crime scene, which is really weird. Staging or trying to ditch it out. But that's where her phone was found. And then I just kind of broke down for those that may have been kind of confused on where the bodies were at, because it was a little confusing with the diagram that they had. So I kind of broke that down a little bit better because this was a little confusing. And so basically we've got Paul who gets shot once when he's kind of standing inside this little storage room here. And then the fatal shot comes as he's probably in the doorway. He goes down. Now, we don't know who gets attacked first, but there'd be 2 bullets, 2 shells found inside the storage room, approximately right here. Then we find 3 shell casings from the AR-300 Blackout, kind of grouped around right here. And then we've got another 3 AR spent rounds closer to Maggie's body. So it looks like 3 shots at her, maybe from the front, and then 1 or 2 people walk over and then fire. She's shot 3 times, or excuse me, she's shot 5 times, and at least 1 shot in the back of the head. And then there was also some footprints that they were talking about. 1 was from the investigator. You think at least 1 or 2 are from Paul. The other thing that's kind of interesting is the tire tracks. They mentioned that there's 2 unknown tire tracks, although in this diagram it only talks about the one. But we do know that there's at least 2 different tracks that are, they can't explain. So, yeah, anything on that you want to add there, Steve?
Well, I think they said it was more like an impression. It's not that it was a clear design. It was just like it was depressed earth and grassy area.
Yeah, grass down, right.
Yeah.
So they can't, it's not normal like in dirt where you would have the impressions of a tire that you could, get samples from.
Well, but now as far as the crime scene people, they would have collected areas of that grass and from the building and have that in there. I would assume that they collected that so that if they ever came across a vehicle that might have those chemical elements from the soil, from the barn, because I don't know what was stored in that barn. There's a lot of the CSI stuff that you do on the scene, and which I don't know if they collected or not.
Okay, if you guys have a couple questions, maybe we'll take a few, or we can go for another 10 minutes here. So if you have a question, go ahead and we'll try to get to a few of them here. I can't get to all of them, but we'll try to answer a few at the end of the show here. J-Dubs, thank you both for your insight. Yes, thank you. It's all Steve. Steve is amazing. Interpreting this evidence and stuff. Yeah, I think we covered everything that I had set up for today. Yeah, so we'll see what questions roll in real quick. Miss Siren says Alex Murdaugh said he and Paul were shooting magnums earlier in the day in second interview. Oh, interesting. That would explain gunshot residue right there if he was shooting that day. Let's see if there's any. Yeah, so this is a good question, and I forgot to put this up. So did he have help? How could he switch large guns out so quickly with each gun? And you said with the sling, and I meant to pull that up. That was one thing I wanted to get. Is
one of the guns they entered in court. I know it was boxed, and you can see clearly it has a sling on it. Yeah. Now on the missing 300 blackouts, on the one on the table, you see bipods on this one towards the fore end, but you don't see a sling. On this one, I can't. Yeah, you do. It does have a sling. I see it now. I thought that was just a dog collar at first, but no, it has a sling on it. So this gun has a sling. The shotgun has a sling, and if it's a pattern that family has slings on everything, then. But it still is odd for you to use 2 different weapons, and for that transition, unless he's trying to stage it to suit for the fact of presenting 2 shooters.
Yeah, and
so
you just answered Karen Lee's question.
So far, tonight's presentation has slings. So.
Yeah. So yeah, he could have had the shotgun slung on one shoulder and the AR. That's just opinion, though. We don't know, but that could be a possibility. And then to answer Karen Lee's question, to make it look like there's 2 shooters and it wasn't him. And like I said, with him being clean, I think it's a 50-50 with him having no blood, because it goes for the prosecution as well as the defense, because he can say, well, if I shot somebody close range with a shotgun, I should be covered in blood. So me not covered with any blood, makes sense for the defense. But then on the other side, if he's checking pulses and checking the phone, how does he not have blood on him? So it's kind of 50-50 on that.
Now, this picture you have here, is this from?
No, this is not. I'm sorry, Steve. This is not the actual AR. I apologize.
Does it even belong to the family?
No, this is a sample. Picture? This is a sample. I'm sorry,
so
Steve.
I take back everything I said
Yeah.
about the sling. Then
Yeah, I'm
I thought
sorry.
this,
See, my
when you
apologies.
said blue tart, I thought that this was something that they had done. So no, I take back everything. I haven't seen an AR with a sling.
With the sling on it. Yeah, my apologies on that. Yeah, but we know the shotgun does. Yeah, this was just used as an example. I'm sorry.
I'm easily confused. You gotta be careful with me.
Yeah, no, my apologies. Yeah, see, that's the thing. So that's a great question because it seems like the defense, and watching this channel, YouTube channel called the lawyer which is a great channel as well. He's been talking about that a lot in his show and saying that since the defense keeps bringing that up, like kind of foreshadowing, that he thinks that they did not check the drains. Because why would you, kind of bring that up in your defense and then just have an expert come the next day or, prosecution brings in and says, oh, yeah, we checked the drains and this is what we found. So I think that's why the defense kept saying, like, well, you had an opportunity, you had the search warrant, you had that property to search, and you didn't check the sink. And, so far, these first few people, it wasn't really their job to check. So, but I think it's interesting.
They're always going to show that not everything wasn't done to the highest standards. That's what the defense, that's what they're paid to do, and show and highlight those points that if you really was looking for a bad guy and not trying just this one, you would have done this, this, and this. And that's often the case in any of these types of trials.
Patricia says, I think Paul was the target. Yeah, I mean, that would make sense, because, Paul got off with a slap on the wrist in a lot of people's eyes, was the target and shot with the double barrel shot. I don't think it's double barrel. It's 12 gauge, right? Double barrel could have been a double barrel. I don't know.
Well, the gun they introduced, the first gun they introduced when they was talking to the expert that secured the weapon, and it was one that had a sling and it was semi-automatic.
Okay.
So I don't know.
But anyway, not to get off track, but then, so the target was Paul. He got shot with a shotgun, and then the perp saw Maggie. Unfortunately, Maggie, basically kind of saying Maggie was kind of the collateral damage there, unfortunately, and it could be. Like I said, either one wouldn't surprise me at all. Thank you so much, Jenar. So before we finish, we'll try to get a couple more questions in before we go. But like I said, we do have something special coming up Friday or Saturday. We can't say any more than that.
If everything goes to plan. If the weather,
that's why I said sure.
And which I'm gonna work all day tomorrow. I'm gonna put a good 8 or 10 hours in tomorrow.
Wow. Well, what he's got planned for this weekend is going to be amazing, or whenever it's done.
And I have no idea what the results will show. That's how come I'm doing the control test.
That's why I'm excited. So excited for it. Super stoked. And then, of course, we've got our big projects coming in, a couple months. So
yeah, I just got back from Indiana. I left. I got up at 5 Sunday morning and took off to Indiana, and just got back today. And then you called me, and so I missed a lot of this news. I appreciate you having me here tonight. It's an honor.
Oh, good to hear that you're feeling better, Michelle. Thank you so much. And always thank you so much, Mods, for all your hard work. Let me get rid of this. Okay, I'm just trying to see if I can find any more questions before we go. Not really seeing any. Thank you so much, Jennifer. I see that. Yeah, they did. They did introduce several guns. I think it's just to show that a lot of those guns are kind of like the similar type of guns that were used. The bullets go for that gun. So that were used in the murders. So Yeah, that's an uphill battle for sure. Um, and a lot of witnesses. I doubt that'll be that. My biggest thing is, will Buster be a witness, and who will call him? Will it be the prosecution or defense?
Well, I think someone said he was on the prosecution list, but then again, it doesn't matter. They both sides can call him, and both
Sure.
sides will examine regardless. It's just that the defense can call them for certain things that if it's not addressed through the prosecution side of that they'll bring them back and address certain issues that weren't brought up during the prosecution's turn at the trial.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Steve, I appreciate you coming on and sharing your expertise. And for those that are still sticking around, hit that like button. And if you're new to the channel or not subscribed to Steve's channel, the link is posted right at the top, pinned at the top there. Please go show him some love and subscribe to his video. We'll be combining our channels here real soon and have some amazing stuff just around the corner as soon as winter kind of goes away. So super excited. So yeah, let's see, I think got everything. So anything else, Steve?
No, it's just a great case for us to look at and learn from, and see how well prepared the prosecution is, and what will be the final results. I'm actually absolutely fascinated by these cases, and I watch them, and to keep abreast of so many things where law enforcement's going and what they do now, and which so far I've not been really impressed with this case, but I'm sure that the experts will get there, and they have the evidence that will see justice, and that's all that matters, as long as we find justice. But I appreciate you having me here tonight. You can throw me backstage, and I appreciate it.
All right. Oops, let me get rid of this real quick. Thank you, Megs. All right, buddy. Thanks for coming on. We'll see you here in just a minute. And of course, thank you to everyone who donated and just everybody being here tonight. And like I said, yeah, Steve's got something special that he's going to be putting together. He's already got the materials and stuff, and I think it's going to be super exciting. We don't have a specific date, but closer to the weekend, things work out. So, and we'll have a special show when that's ready. So I'm super stoked. It'll be really cool. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and get the outro ready. If I can find it. We're at towards the end of the week. So if you're new to the channel and you want to send in pictures of your pet, we'll